Rushmore.
Thank you very much.
Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam, and welcome back to my Road to Asteroid City, where I'll be covering every Wes Anderson film in honor of Asteroid City coming out very soon. I have already covered his first film in Bottle Rocket. That review will be linked in the eye in the right-hand corner. Go check that out if you are so inclined. But for right now, let us dive into the movie that pretty much announced Wes Anderson to the world, Rushmore. This was released in 1998. And it starred Jason Schwartzman and Bill Murray, who was nominated for a Golden Globe for this role. It tells the story of a young man named Max Fisher, played by Schwartzman. Outside of his grades, which are surprisingly poor, he's basically your classic overachiever. At the Rushmore Academy, he pretty much is part of 1,000 clubs, extracurricular activities. I read a Letterboxd review saying Max Fisher is what happens when you give a theater kid a platform. Not gonna lie, I laughed a little too hard at that because it is true. But Fisher drops everything when he meets Rosemary Cross, played by Olivia Williams, an elementary school teacher who he immediately falls in love with. However, someone else who has fallen in love with him is basically the local rich guy, played by Bill Murray. His name is Herman Bloom, and while, yes, he is very wealthy, he has basically his marital life and his family life is falling apart. And at first, he and Max Fisher become sort of friends. But then, over the love of Rosemary Cross, well, they pretty much do borderline dangerous things to each other in order to get the affections of Miss Cross. As I mentioned, this is the movie that announced Wes Anderson to the world. People think that this is his first film. It really isn't. However, this is the one that people say, that's the one that started it all. This is actually co-written by Wes Anderson alongside Owen Wilson, who he talked out of leaving the military in order to co-write this. And well, let's just say Owen Wilson is still acting today, so it all worked out. I had only heard snippets about this movie. I had never really had any experience going into it, so I went into it completely blind. However, now that I have seen it, yeah, my thoughts on this movie are pretty complicated. Let me just say, first and foremost, that this is a very technically well-made movie. I would argue this is the first movie that starts along the path of what Wes Anderson's movies would look like for the remainder of his career. This is still very raw, but overall it still captures the overall feeling of a Wes Anderson film. This is the nucleus of it. However, some of the content of the movie, I wasn't a fan of personally. First off, though, the performances are pretty solid. Jason Schwartzman, though not fooling anyone as a 15-year-old, is still a lot of fun. Really, I could kind of relate to seeing someone like a Max Fisher. I've met a couple of Max Fishers in my life, and he definitely captures the sort of deadpan type of humor that would be going forward in Wes Anderson films after this point. He has a couple of funny one-liners delivered totally straight that I got a chuckle out of, not gonna lie. Bill Murray is surprisingly really good in this. Again, like I mentioned, he was nominated for a Golden Globe for this, and he more than earned that nomination because I thought he was very good indeed. You get the feeling that he has either had a midlife crisis or the midlife crisis is about to happen. But it's nothing over the top. It's a midlife crisis as told by Wes Anderson, if that makes any sense at all. I think where my complicated thoughts begin and end is the story and what happens in the story. Basically, this movie has Jason Schwartzman as this 15-year-old, basically falling in love with a woman who looks at least 10 or 15 years older than him, just off the eyeball test. Then there's a subplot in the movie in which he has this friend, this little boy a little younger than him, and it's implied that the only reason that he is friends with this little boy is to get in the sack with the boy's mom? And there's a thing where it's implied that he may or may not have gotten an HJ in the back of the mom's Jaguar?
Things that make you go, "Ugh."
Let me just say first and foremost that it is never outright stated that this happens, as far as I am aware. However, just the idea that this 15-year-old is getting up to this sort of thing, I just didn't know how to feel about it. And then Bill Murray's character, when it gets into the whole feud over the affections of Miss Cross, there's some pretty evil things that happen here. Max Fisher pretty much collects evidence that leads to Bill Murray's wife in the movie divorcing this character, and then Bill Murray pretty much destroys Max Fisher's bike, and then Fisher retaliates by cutting the brake lines on this guy's tires, or on his car. Guys, it's not that serious.
I have a few questions, starting with what the fuck?
My main issue with it's just so weird. And it seems like Wes Anderson was trying to go for something narratively to try and tie it all together for a deeper meaning. But whatever it was, I clearly missed it. Because all I saw was just this really old man and this really young man fighting over a woman and being severely petty about it. And I just didn't like it. Am I missing something? I'm sure I am. This is my first viewing, but overall, I'm going to give this a good rating, but only on the technical side of things. This is still a very well-made movie. The performances are solid, but man, this is a hard movie to defend. I would actually go and say, and this is probably going to be a hot take, I would say this movie is overrated. Full stop. Technically well-made, by no means a bad movie, but oh boy, there is a lot of stuff that we would call problematic these days. But again, this is just my opinion. What did you all think of Rushmore? Leave your thoughts in the comments. I would love to read what you have to say. And if you don't think I didn't like Rushmore, well, I especially did not like Wes Anderson's next film from 2001, The Royal Tenenbaums. But if you like this video, please be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel and click the bell to allow notifications, so when a new video drops, you'll be the first to know about it. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next one.